Josh from Disco32, and we're going to talk a little bit about antennas. So I get asked a lot from guys, a lot of phone calls we field about antennas. What antenna should I get? I need more range. I need more range. And I'll just kind of shoot you straight on it. You know, it's Disco's not here to sell snake oil or anything. We do sell a couple different antennas. The antennas that Disco sells are broadband antennas, and there's a difference between a real broadband antenna and a very tuned antenna, all right? And so we're gonna get into a little bit about each. So without further ado, when you get your radio, so back to this HD2 that we've been talking about a lot, it's gonna come with an antenna. And for 99.9% of you, this is absolutely the antenna that you should just keep. It's tuned for the radio, and unless you're kind of have the education or the operational experience to know like what benefit you need, I would say that for the majority of you, this is going to be the best it's going to get, because it's basically tuned for the specific wavelength the radio is designed to work on. So for instance, on this dual band, this is a dual band antenna, it's going to have a little bit where it's good in the UHF and a little bit where it's good in the VHF. But if you went like way south on the spectrum down towards near HF, like as you approach 30 megahertz, it's not going to be very good at all. It's going to kind of suck in these different parts of the band, okay? If you want to increase range with your kind of stock antenna or tuned antenna, what I recommend is what science recommends, and that you need height. So if you can't increase power, you can increase height. And height is kind of considered the poor man's gain. And what do I mean by gain? Well, kind of an analogy you can use is when you turn the power on on your hose at home, it comes out of the sprocket, like out of the hose at a specific speed, right? It's just psh. But if you need a little bit more of that a little bit more of that what you do is you put your thumb in front of it. And so when you put your thumb in front of it, that's kind of an analogy of increasing gain without increasing power. And how we do that with line of sight is increase in altitude. And so 6-8 inches can actually make a very big deal when it comes to line of sight. So what I recommend people do is to use a relocation cable, as it's called in the biz. But a lot of people that are ham operators and stuff will just call it a jumper cable, because that's all you're doing. It's just a conduit taking power from the radio to and from the antenna. The antenna relocation cable, the ARC, okay? We're gonna talk about ours a little bit. There's a lot of these that are on the market. They're all kind of similar, two connectors and a piece of coaxial cable in between. What makes ours different is that we looked at it through the lens of a tactical communicator. So we needed things that other people wouldn't necessarily need. We needed ingress protection. So we needed environmental protection. So we needed flexibility. So when I mean flexibility, I'm talking about the cable being flexible itself. We needed a very broad range of frequency. So not all cable is created the same when it comes to like what frequencies are very good to use at it. A lot of people use RG58, which is a simple type of coaxial cable been around for forever. It's like a 50 ohms of impedance, and that's like what some of our competitor products are made out of. We know now that on like military radios, you have a full range of spectrum to the right of what RG58 can handle. When I mean by the right, I mean higher. So anytime I talk about the spectrum, when I say like to the left, I'm talking lower frequencies, and to the right, I'm talking higher frequencies. So there's a lot of military radios now that operate well beyond 512 megahertz to the right. So a lot of the older legacy cables do not work very well at those higher cycles, okay? So we found a cable that has a bunch of the things that we like. It's very broad band, so it works on the low side, it works on the very, very, very high side. The other thing is that it's ultra flexible. So our cable has a published turn radius of 1/4 of an inch. So that's what the manufacturer that makes the cable is saying, hey, we feel comfortable that this bends a quarter of an inch, it's going to be fine. The other thing is it has memory. So for us, why does that make sense? Well, because we're going to be putting this in our kit and we want it to stay there. And when you put this through your kit, it just stays there. And then we want it to be ultra flexible. So when we move it, we don't want that to cause problems with the cable over time. And with a lot of the older rigid, like RG58, over time, the thing will just break apart, okay? We overmold it. So we overmold it in-house. And that adds the water ingress protection that we needed to have to increase the overall durability of the cable in the field. And then we have black connectors, and that's something a lot of, I would say, like our big daddy competitors, like the Mast, they have black connectors because they've made the investment into it. We have them because we have made the investment into it. But the majority of you'll see a lot of knockoff companies that maybe they're not, well, they're doing their thing, but they just don't have the resources to get, to order 10,000 connectors in black. So they'll do things like wrap it and stuff. We just didn't want to do that. We wanted it to be perfect right out of the box. So how and why? So just basically by taking your stock antenna, and we're going to get into the broadband antenna here in a second, and taking it from being down here on your kit and moving it up here on your kit can make a huge difference in reception levels. So I always just recommend guys when they're like, hey, I need a little bit more range, I'm not getting range. The only thing that I can tell them that's like a solid recommendation is to increase height. And how you do it on the body of a tactical communicator is throw it on the back and raise it up as high as you can. There's a big problem specifically for get a lot of law enforcement inquiries about this, and guys going did SRT or SWAT, they're going 2-3 rooms into a building and they can't get out. Will this help? Maybe, maybe not. I don't know. But I do know that it is the easiest, it's the easy button to increase a little bit of range is through some elevation. And you can take this with a variety of adapters, which we sell, and take your stock antenna, or, there's some other ones there. I don't want to not throw out some companies. I can't remember, but here is that guy. And I know he's very popular. He makes a lot of antennas, and I want to give him a shout out. It's very cool what he's doing. So good on him. But he makes a very tuned antenna for a very specific purpose. So that is the best way to get the most out of your radio. So if you have an antenna that is tuned for the specific frequency you're operating on, and you get as much elevation as possible, brother, that's it. That's as best as you're going to get. There's no magic out there. If there was a magic, hit me up and we'll both buy a fucking ranch or something together out in Montana when we bring it to market. But it's just physics. It just, you can't violate the rules. So for line of sight, height, power, that's it. On a handheld radio, you're just hamstrung by both. And then in a tactical world, the power thing is it's all a game of probabilities and what gives me an advantage or disadvantage, and you just got to weigh that out. But for me personally, it's just as high as I can get it is the winning solution. Now, on the military side is a whole other beast, okay? Because you have huge interoperability concerns, and you have transceivers or radios that have very big open spectrum. So for a long time, it was just 30 to 512 megahertz was the kind of standard where you could talk anywhere in 30 to 512 using any kind of modulation, doing whatever you wanted to. And so when when these radio manufacturers go to antenna manufacturers and hey, we need an antenna, what they do is they come up with a broadband antenna. And what the difference between this guy and this guy is, one, this is made in the States. This is designed for military applications. This is built like a brick shit house, okay? It's an expensive antenna because it's an expensive antenna, but the difference is as far as transmission and receiving is this is okay between 30 and 512. It's okay across the whole band. This is great at 440 megahertz, but is shit everywhere else. So this is the Swiss Army champ that a military communicator would need to use the full capability of his radio. if you are a dude looking, do you need this antenna if you have like HD2 radio? Absolutely not. I don't recommend it. If you're a PJ and you need to buy radios for your unit and you're looking to GPC something, this is the one for you. And we sell a lot of them. They're made in the States. They're awesome for the military radio and the capability. Now, if you just want the look, will it work? Absolutely. It will work, but it will not be as good as a tuned antenna on your thing. And you can do the same thing with the height and everything. So the antenna relocation kit is the same thing, the cable. So basically what you do is you just screw in the broadband antenna, plug this into the radio, boop, move this high up on your back, and then you've done the same thing, you've increased height. Okay, and that is going to that'll give you a little increase in line of sight. And so that's it, man. I think that it's pretty simple. We're not going to sell any snake oil, but if you have an amateur radio, or for instance, like you have a police radio, like you're a SWAT guy, and you have that problem where you're 2-3 rooms inside a building, and you're losing comms, and you're looking for a magic bullet with like a different antenna, or you want to do a different thing. The best antenna that you got is the one that came with your radio. And to get out of that building, I would suggest completely going down your PACE plan. And if you get stuck in the building, using a discus with signal or something to use a cell phone to get out. And have that just trained into your TTPs. Because there's no magic sauce or more powerful antenna that's going to allow your signal to propagate through all of those different walls and all of the different stuff. It's just not there. The best way to get in and out of a building communicating, in my opinion, is by using cell phone. If you get stuck in some of the bigger places, Las Vegas, big cities, a lot of the big public buildings have like Wi-Fi infrastructure or repeaters built into them for public safety. But if you're the 9/10 of the police force and you don't have any of that in your area and you've got very big buildings, I would definitely do some training on using a cell phone to get out if you have to. If you start getting no signal on your radio, or a lot of departments, what they'll do is they run 2 radios, and they have radio 1 is on their standard public safety net, like their TAC channel or whatever, and then radio 2 they just have set up to be line of sight, so radio to radio, so they can communicate inside the structure, but they can't communicate outside the structure. And those are big brain problems, and a lot of the stuff with getting in buildings and subterranean facilities and stuff like that, a lot of that is solved by like a company like Persistent Systems with a meshing network and things like that. So. But anyways, I will say, without a doubt, I know that our antenna relocation cables are pretty much the best that you can get. If there's somebody making it on par with us, those would be the best too. But just the material selection, the testing that we do, the time we spent finding the right pipe for the signal, the cable itself, and how much the cable is, I just know that it just doesn't get any better. When a new, better coaxial cable comes out, we'll start using that. But for now, this is kind of it. Doesn't get any better. All right.